Grandpa. I have a question for you about rockets. How do rockets fly? I think, and why do they have fire on the bottom?
Hello, my beautiful granddaughter. Thank you for the video. I just watched it, and I hopefully can answer your question. I have a little rocket right here, teeny little guy. Why does a rocket have fire coming out of the bottom, I believe is what you asked. The fire is the motor that's used to push the rocket into outer space. Now, the reason why this has to happen is because of something called gravity. Gravity is the force that holds us to the earth. It's what determines how much you weigh. Each rocket weighs a lot. Most big rockets, like you've been watching in the sky with your dad, those things weigh tons, thousands and thousands of pounds, because of the equipment that's on them, just the makeup of the rocket and the payload they have. So there has to be enough force to push that rocket into outer space, and the force that is used needs to be greater than the force of gravity holding the rocket to the ground. So the only thing that we've been able to figure out how to use for rocket motors is stuff that is explosive. It's basically a controlled explosion that the motor uses to push the explosion out of the bottom of the rocket, and that's called thrust. Thrust is created by lighting that motor and having that explosion come out the bottom, and that thrust is strong enough to overcome gravity. So if the rocket weighs 1,000,000 pounds, you have to have 1,000,001 pound of thrust to get it just to move. And those motors, to get that kind of thrust, need to be very, very powerful. So that's why you see all the smoke and the flame and everything. Now, the interesting part is the higher the rocket goes away from the surface of the earth, the lighter it begins to weigh. So you've probably seen videos of people floating in outer space because there's no gravity. What the interesting thing is, as the rocket goes higher and further away from the earth, it speeds up because the force of gravity is less, but the thrust in the motor is the same. So you can get these things going thousands of miles an hour. For these little guys, same exact thing. This thing probably weighs 1 ounce. So the motor that I put in here needs to be able to be 1 ounce and a little bit more to get it off the launch pad. And the motor only lasts a minute, or a couple of seconds actually. And once the motor runs out, the force that was used to push it up, or the force of thrust, starts to wear off, and it coasts until it reaches the top, and then gravity takes back over, and down it comes back. And that's why we have a parachute in here, so it'll land safely so I can fly it again. Otherwise it would just crash into the ground. So it's the same principle, just it's those motors and then the motor that I use in here throws a lot of fire out because it's also burning stuff to create a controlled explosion out the bottom of this thing that has enough push to overcome the force of gravity. You also asked how a rocket flies. Well, the force of the motor is really what's pushing it up, but there is a chance that a rocket can go unstable. It has 3 different ways it can move, all different directions. So these fins, what they're designed to do is keep it flying straight and stable. Without the fins on this, there's no telling where it would go. Nowadays, the rockets that you've been watching with your dad, the mechanics of the motor now, they're adjusting the nozzle where the fire comes out to keep it stable. So instead of using fins, there's mechanisms in the rocket motor that adjust where that flame is going and where the thrust is going, and computers on that thing make micro adjustments to make sure that it's going straight. So they don't need fins on them anymore. Something like this, there's definitely nothing like that going on. So the fins keep it flying when it leaves the launch pad straight up. And once it catches enough speed, the air around the fins keeps the rocket stable and flying straight. Very awesome question that you've asked. It's really fascinating, all of this stuff. That's the beauty. That's one of the things I love the most about model rocketry is the science part of it. There's always something new to learn and to realize and the problems to figure out. So very awesome. I love you, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.